Hey guys, how's it going? Patrick here. Alright, what are we doing today? The same thing we've done for the last couple of videos. We're going to talk about Klingons. Only this time, it's not going to be all Klingons. As you might have noticed on the way in here, Andorians are involved too. And anybody who knows me knows that's a tremendous, tremendous surprise. Before we get into that, I'd like to ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me some comments, tell your friends, spread the word. We are currently at 83 subscribers. I made a promise a couple of years ago, before I went silent and fell off the face of the earth, that if I got to 100, I would publicly embarrass myself. The video is down the list a little ways. If you are really interested, I hit 100 subscribers. I will sing the theme to the original series, which a lot of people didn't know had lyrics. They're terrifying. But that's what I'm willing to do for you guys. So, I guess it's probably time to say, cue the Klingon theme music. And there we are. So, last month, Modiphius Entertainment released the Klingon Empire Core Rulebook for Star Trek Adventures. Most of you know this by now, especially if you've watched the last couple of videos, because that's all I've been talking about. And like a lot of Trekkie and Trekkie gamers, I spend way too much time on the internet. And one of the people that I regularly converse with on Facebook, Gertie, she mentioned, those Klingon house rules, they probably work great for Betazoid houses and Andorian clans too. Which got me thinking, because like a lot of longtime Star Trek gamers, I didn't play a lot of Last Unicorn, but I got to play a little bit, and they had one of my favorite source books, Among the Clans. And in it, they talk about the Keths, or clans. And when they lost the license and Decipher took over, Decipher being made up of the former employees of Last Unicorn, they kept the Keths. Played the heck out of Decipher Trek. I've got an online game that I'm still playing that, while it's Star Trek Adventures now, started life with the Decipher system over 10 years ago. So even though the Keths did not carry over into Star Trek Adventures formally, they have stuck around in many people's games because they have long-running campaigns that have converted over from one system to another. So I looked at it, and Gertie was right. The Klingon house rules, custom made to create Andorian Keths and give them some options during character creation. So let's take a look at a couple of these things. Alright, here is Kethadrani, which I had come up with for my own use as soon as I saw what people were saying. Now, as it happens, in my current Star Trek Adventures game, I have two Andorians. Neither of them, however, are Keth Adrani. One of them is Keth Birev, and the other one is Keth Devoro. The latter we'll run into some problems with, and we'll talk about that at a different time. Keth Birev, on the other hand, is very easy to do because Keth Birev is a clan of engineers, which happen to have an entry right there in the house rules. There are Klingon houses renowned for their engineers. So, let's take this. Come on, don't be hateful. No, really. Don't be hateful. Save as. We want to save that as. Keth Birev. Alright, we'll get to this stuff in a little while. Now, the house statuses in the Klingon book may or may not align with how the Keths were presented in among the clans. But for our purposes, they're going to be more for what they offer in character generation as opposed to what they actually mean. The rules were not written with this in mind, so there's going to be some reskinning that has to be done. But not a lot. For purposes of this demonstration, we're going to say that Keth Birev is old and fallen. Not so much because they're in decline, but because they offer us a +1. No, plus. Learn to type. You've been doing this for a long time. +1 to control and a +1 to insight. They'll also give you a value just like the Klingons do. Their legacy, obviously, among the clans, Keth Birev is known as a clan of engineers. They have been around for centuries. They helped establish and build a staggering percentage of Andoria's traveling infrastructure. There's a lot of railroads that they laid down. Everything from old wood rail lines to current maglev bullet trains. But they built and maintain interest in something like 70-75% of all the rail infrastructure and a lot of other engineering stuff. So obviously their house legacy is engineers. I don't know why I didn't do this in Adrani, but I'm going to do it now. I can always go back and fix the other. Really? There we go. Now, what the Legacy of Engineers gives you is a focus, a couple of Keth-only talents, but obviously it also gives you a +1 to your engineering. Those two talents are called Family Secrets and mechanical insights. And with the disposition, again, it's more about what it gives us than in what it's called. But they are traditional and unyielding. And the house has a reputation for a certain amount of arrogance, so that kind of tracks, actually. What it gives us in terms of character generation is a +1 to insight and a +1 to reason. So we're going to save that. Reputation starts at 3. No, scratch that. He says, checking the rules. Old and Fallen does cost you a little bit of reputation. Now, the influence, might, and wealth all start at 6. Then you have 6 points to divide between them. Their reputation may be a little low, but their influence is still felt. They're not particularly concerned about military might. They're concerned about influence and wealth primarily. So we're going to say that their might remains at 6. I'm going to say their influence is a 9, and their wealth is also a 9. So there's Keth Barev. Did that because, as I said up front, I have a need. I let my players do retcons occasionally if something significant comes up rules-wise that would have allowed them to do things a little different. They don't always take it, but if they were playing from an unofficial species template, for instance, and an official one for that species came out, I'd let them go back and change their attributes to match the new template if they wanted to. And in the age-old tradition of Star Trek, it never happened. It was always like that. And I would give the Andorian players the same benefit. They could go back and swap out the environment and upbringing steps in their character generation and replace it with their Keth if they so chose. You don't have to. Now, Idrani is warriors, Bira is engineers. Those are easy. The problem comes up in that some of the Keths are artistic or financial in nature, and the Klingon house rules simply don't cover those. So, when we come back for the next video, we're going to go through and figure out a few additions to the Klingon house rules and see if we can't come up with Keth Devoro for my other Andorian player. Until then, guys, been good seeing you. I'm glad I was able to keep this one short and sweet as compared to the last one. We'll see you again in a few days when I get the other one up and posted. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and I appreciate you coming around. Until the next time, Kapla.